Hello and welcome to another game featuring team tactics. In this game, me and my friends grouped up in two groups and actually landed on the same team playing with each other, so that was pretty cool. Unfortunately, I got taken out rather early on in the medieval ages, but my friends continued to fight on in the industrial age, and there was a really prolonged battle that took place and highlighted what things that you should and should not be doing when you hit the industrial age. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you some events that took place before the whole industrial battle, and then in the industrial age, I pretty much leave the video unedited as I comment on everything that was happening. So one last thing that I want to say before we start the video is that me and my team are not pros, and we also don't watch the videos that the pros have posted. I've checked out a couple now that I've started creating my own videos, and I've seen the speed at which a lot of these players are rushing, like Knights or Industrial of the Wonder, and the different tactics that they have. And this channel is not supposed to be teaching you to play on that level. It is instead supposed to be for the average player that wants to figure out how to play with his teammates. Just play better with the teammates instead of focusing on your own skill as a player. So with that over, let's get right into this and I'll start showing what happened. So I spawned at the top over here, and down here we had my mate Hammer on the front. Behind him is Lord Rantalot, and to the bottom left we have Elecry. Then up north there's a random, the two to the right are also random, and this is our mate Evo. So we started, and pretty early on I see that an ally quit, the person that was at the front, but also that I had fish. Now fairly early on I noticed that there were also a lot of animals lying around, so I was not able to expand as much as I wanted. And this is also the first mine that I found. It's quite far away and it's kind of surrounded by animals, so I'm not in the best position for the quick expand. So I build my temple a little bit to the north there with the stone mine, and I have to get warriors later to clear out the animals. Meanwhile, my allies, they get an early rush going on. I did mention this tactic in my first video. It's just you get a couple of troopers together at the front, just 10 per person, and you attack. They took him out fairly quickly. In the meantime, I was here just trying to clear out these animals because I really needed my metal. It took a while for me to get there, but eventually I did. So Vartzi is the first person that they were attacking. They've marched further down south and they're attacking the Vipe now. The Vipe has got European spearmen, so he's going to be able to hold. My allies decided then to destroy the pier and to fight the rest of the spearmen afterwards. Their attack on the Eldest House is pretty futile because the Eldest House from Europe is pretty stable. You're not going to be able to take that down very quickly. So yeah, after taking down the pier, they move on and just kill as many of the spearmen as they can. The Vipe does respond though. He trains his own force of spearmen after that battle and marches up into Lord Rantalot's lands. Lord Rantalot does not have much food, so he's not able to do much at this point. Luckily for him, he's played as Europe, so his eldest house is pretty stable. And Hammer and Elecry do come with their archers, and they save him, taking out the bear as well in the process, which is also a nice plus. So at this point I finally upgraded to the medieval, and I'm getting myself my light knights. I want to be aggressive. I thought that I would be supporting, but then I found that there were players to my bottom right, which I hadn't seen before, so I'm actually at the front myself. I decide to attack as quickly as I can. So I have 16 knights and my archers. I think that will be enough. But I make a rookie mistake here and I don't go for the forge, which I should, to stop him from building towers. Instead, some knights go for his eldest house, which will do nothing, and others go for the towers of his. My archers are getting his workers, which is good, but otherwise I should have gone straight for the forge. Still, I do get the workers and I march down with my archers to take out the rest of his workers. So in the end, he won't be able to build more towers anyways. Still, I wish that I had not done it like this, and it's a good point for me to make because I can improve my playing whilst doing these videos. Hammer was also attacking on his end, but there was not much breaking through on that part of the wall. So by this point I had taken out most of this player's workers, and I was getting ready to destroy his town hall after taking out the rest of his towers here. Unfortunately that does not happen, because then I see enemy light knights coming in. I decide to fight because the archers of mine should help me to get the advantage, as they do a lot of damage where all on one target and they can pick them out. Plus I have more knights on the way down. But unfortunately a third player comes in and he has a large force of archers, so my knights and archers are taken out and my attack basically has now failed. Luckily I have built a wall down to my south so they can't come straight into my base, but I should have pulled out at this point and not tried to engage the archers, because now I just have more knights that are going to die. Unfortunately, my final iron mine is gone. And after looking around, I see that the closest one I have is to the south there, which is quite a while away. Whilst I was fighting them off, Hammer also was attacked by a force of light knights from the Blake, or just Blake, but he was able to fend them off without any real problems. So I started building a wall to protect my stables. I was going much more on the defensive, and then I see the force of light knights and longbowmen are trying to break down my front gate there. Once again, I should have done things differently. I didn't have enough food, so I had to cancel some of the light knights that were in production to be able to build that tower. And as I do this, the longbowmen start picking off my workers. So just all in all, I should have built the tower earlier and should have gone more on the defensive earlier after seeing the first wave of light knights and archers coming in. Up until now, I was still thinking that I could hold, but then I see that there's a hole in the tree line that I hadn't discovered before. At this point, I know that I'm pretty screwed. They're going to take out my entire economy, and they might even destroy my base. The worst part is that I left my knights up top to defend the stables, because the wall there was not finished, and to get back down here, they have to go all the way around the northern tree line, which leaves me pretty screwed. I do try to get my workers to return to repair my town hall, but I was too slow on everything. And yeah, this is the point where I unfortunately lose the game. So in the future, there are many things I should have done and could have done that I didn't do. Check the wall, just send a worker to try to walk through to see if there's a hole in the tree line, get towers earlier. If you're going the defensive, don't go for another attack on the archers that you know you're going to lose. Still, Hammer continues the fight, and we're also going to switch to his point of view. He has troops that are just roaming down the south as the Viper has blocked off his base, and he's just looking for hit and runs. Whilst this is happening, Elochrai has hit the industrial and he's getting a real economic boom going on, and Rantalot is still in the medieval ages. He's recovering from the whole attack that happened earlier. So Hammer is now just searching for any mines or workers that he can find. His offense is also his defense, as you're about to see, because he's walking through their lands looking for someone, and at this moment Blake is marching right to his base with a force of light knights. Just down there, there we go. If he had hit, that would have slowed down Hammer immensely if he had taken out the housing, but instead he recalls his knights because he sees coming into his lands is the army from Hammer. Usev is Blake's ally. He's got a couple of crossbowmen there, but they're not going to be able to defend against this force from Hammer. So he does recall his light knights and he is going to engage them shortly. Yeah, Usev's troops didn't stand a chance. But now come the light knights, and he goes straight for the archers. The archers are definitely his greatest threat. But with the upgrades and just in general medieval archers, the light knights are going to lose. Archers are a really nice counter to knights and legionnaires in general, as long as they do enough damage to break through the armor. That's the important thing. So Bronze Age archers do not do much to light knights, but they still do more than a spearman would. So whilst Hammer is attacking here, whilst he was attacking at the front where Blake was, the Vipe sends another force of troops up to his base. Luckily, he's already upgraded to India and he's got his barracks with the Sikhs ready to train. They're all in reserve, so he spawns an army of Sikhs. We also have Eloquai already there with a couple of soldiers, and they're able to repel the force without any real problems. So just in general here, it's really good to see Hammer doing what he is doing. He's continued with his force up into Blake's base. So Blake has now got to react to this. They're sending cavalry to try to catch this, but it's all taking time, and it's taking their attention off of his base and off of the front. However, eventually they are caught up with and slaughtered by the Red Devils. So whilst this has all been happening, Eloquai has been able to really get an economic boom going. His base is ready to support the war fund, and so he goes ahead and starts building factories at the front. Once again, this is rather late in most pro games. I know that you see this a lot earlier, but we are 40 minutes in and just getting the first industrial units ready. And they take out the support that was going to be coming for the Vipe and start destroying the gates so that his troops can come in. The big birders have so much range that they can even attack the town hall from the cliff that they're up at. So all that has to happen is Eloquai needs to send his soldiers into the base to provide vision. I actually think now that I think about it, I think he could have just told them to shoot the floor. Anyway, so I switched to Blake's perspective here. This is whilst the Vipe is being attacked. And he's just getting his first industrial factories up and running. He's also taking Germany, which is the most expensive industrial faction that you can choose. I would only pick Germany if you have the resources to back it up. On the other hand, here we have this Russian player who has reached the second industrial revolution, but he does not have close to enough metal. So he should definitely be mining the other metal mines, reducing some of that wood. His city hall should of course be producing workers. And if they had been attacking at this point, they might have been able to take out Hammer. Instead, no attack is happening and the Vipe here is about to fall, meaning that no one has to worry about an attack from the south, and they can focus all of their resources to the north. I think this is the final shot. No, one more after this shot. Yeah, one more after this shot. And that's that for the Vipe. It was a shame because he did try. He did pretty good considering that he was basically solo. In the meantime, Lord Rantalot and Evo staged an attack on the yellow player, but they didn't get far. Hammer started moving north after he took out the Vipe, and eventually he reached the airfields and wanted to destroy them, but now finally the first tanks are coming out from our Russian player. The tanks have no problem taking out the armored cars and the Sikhs, of course. But in the meantime, whilst this is happening, Eloquai is securing the base. Because he has the resources to do so, because the rest of the game he was just getting prepared for this moment, he's able to do this, and it's a huge bonus for your team if you can cut off these other points of access. It funnels all of the enemy's troops into this one passage. Now what I will say right here is that the Russian player should definitely have moved forward with his tanks. He could be attacking the back line right here where he's building up the defensive line. But instead he's standing still. Tanks should not be standing still. They should always be on the move. So Eloquai moves north, with that force of submachine gunners and big Berthas, and Evo just hit the industrial. Hammer starts looking to expand to the right over here, along with Elecry. They can see that they've built industrial factories to their right, and they want to get a foothold. This is a very bold move, trying to get so close to the enemy base, especially when you start seeing big Berthas already there. At this point, he should have cancelled this and moved back, built the factories further back. There are a lot more tanks coming in, and the big Berthas and the Russian players' infantry and Death Guys start moving in, and this is where the game really starts to get interesting. Elecry has got a lot of factories already, and he's got pillboxes that he's going to upgrade for anti-air. Hammer has also built anti-air at the passes around his base, so there should not be any bombing raids that can get through there. And now we start to see what's happening from the enemy players. They're sending in lots of units, but they're not really moving about with them. The tanks are just standing still, and they're trying to take out the elephants. They're also the wrong units to be sent to take out elephants. If you've got a tank, then you want to be focusing on a unit that has got extremely high armor. And elephants do not have high armor, so they should be sending soldiers or the motorbike submachine gunners in to take out the elephants. Just in general, when you have a strong one-hit unit, you should be sending that on the units that have got high armor. So Elecry tries moving north, and he starts getting bombed by the French player to the north. And it looks like he's just going air. But still, you can already see, that was just a random that was at the back line. He hadn't done anything all game, and he just quit. Now at this point, Lord Rantalot is finally starting to get his economy back up and running. He's at industrial, and he's getting ready to provide air support. Once again, it's a really nice anti-tank hedgehog line that Elecry has built. He's also double layered, so there's no chance of any light tanks or even land units getting through that. Now the way to get rid of that would be, of course, to send in workers, and they actually don't have towers, machine gun towers at the front there. So it would not have taken much to send 5 workers down there, right click on the anti-tank hedgehog and remove them. It might not even be noticed. So that's definitely a move that should have been done here. You should try to always have workers at the front, not just your tanks and your infantry. You should have workers that are building towers and ready to destroy the anti-tank hedgehogs. So there's still a battle that's raging onto the north, but it's not as intense as what's happening just to the right of his base. Elecry is trying to create an outpost here. He builds a couple of factories, but he quickly decides to build a lot more pillboxes and get anti-air pillboxes from that. He's of course looking to take out the yellow player first, before he can do anything that useful in the industrial age. And whilst all this is happening, the yellow player is thinking about rushing in along with the big Berthas, but once again he just stands still. If you've got a unit like a tank that can shoot whilst moving, you should be moving it, which unfortunately this player did not understand. Most of them did not understand. It's the same for any unit. Even if you're moving still, you can always be moving and then shooting. If you're shooting directly in front of you with artillery, then you can fire, start moving forwards again, fire again. You're not wasting time turning, but you're moving. Because right now, if he had been moving, for instance, he could be shooting at the elephants. But right now he's not in range. So another batch of tanks are coming out there. And what the tanks could be doing is moving over to this outpost instead of going straight to the front. Because as it is, Elecry looks like he will be able to get a foothold there. They're not able to destroy the pillboxes quite fast enough. Also because they're not going for the workers. But this player Blake is focusing his big shots from the Big Bertha on these infantry with really low armor. What he should be doing definitely is getting himself infantry. You need submachine gunners. You can't expect the Big Berthas to deal with everything. You need a mix of troops for a reason. You could get flamethrowers also. You could get, as Russia, the Death Skies and the Stalin Orgel. But instead he's just standing there and he's watching as the trench mortar elephants just fire away. And as said, it would have been good to send the tanks over to the left. He did go for the workers eventually, which is good with his boomers, but it looks like it's too little too late as the first 2 pillboxes are almost finished upgrading. So going back down to the front, you can see what I mean. The Big Berthas are just stagnant. They're sitting there and they're not doing anything. They will win this fight for sure, but they need to be doing a lot more. And they could be pushing far deeper if they had some infantry that are taking out the elephants. So this Russian player did have the idea of going down to the south and trying to get him from the side. But they see that there's the anti-tank Hedgehog and instead the cavalry are able to make it through. The tanks take out the vision, which is not that important because there is more vision set up along the battle line there. If he had sent some workers down with those tanks, that would have been devastating because he would have gotten straight through to the heart of the factories where the Edelkrai's Big Berthas are being trained right now, along with the elephant houses from India, from Hammer. This move also is just... yeah, it's just bad. You don't want to be retreating from trench mortar elephants. If anything, he should have split up his Big Berthas all across the battlefield there, so that if an elephant gets too close to one, it's not too close to the others. So as you can see, Edelkrai successfully created an outpost here, but his workers have died. He is sending up more workers. I couldn't pinpoint them on the map, but he has got more coming up. He's also built more anti-tank Hedgehogs just so no one can come through from that northern pass, and pillbox as well. This is what you want to be doing when you're playing as Germany. You want to have the resources, so you want to have a large economy, and then you do not just focus on Big Berthas, you focus on getting pillboxes set up at the front to hold the front in case there is a breakthrough on the enemy side. You want to be getting the anti-tank Hedgehogs because you have such a huge economy. And of course you do want to be getting the heavy machinery because you have some of the best vehicles in game. So once again, they've taken out the current attack that's at the front. The enemy are trying to come through. Hammer is actually sleeping a little bit there. He should have sent those units up. But it doesn't matter because instead of moving through with the tanks, the enemy like to send their tanks to the front and then just sit and wait. Here they come in again, they're moving. And these are tanks that can fire while shooting. But instead, they come to the front and then they fire. So that's one thing that you should definitely do with this many tanks. Just try to roll through the base. You're not sitting around being complacent. So as they continue to expand the number of factories that they have, they also start doing another tactic. This is what Hammer's doing. You send the wheeled tanks right past the front line and you try to get into the enemy eco. So right now this is of course the factories. And he's taking all of the fire from the Big Berthas. Because they're so fast, he's dodging them. And these Big Berthas are right now irrelevant. If they had just marched up front, they would be tanky enough to still survive, and they would be destroying all of these units, all of these buildings over there that haven't even upgraded yet to the anti-tank pillboxes. But instead, Hammer is just riding straight on through, and they have to respond. The German player should definitely have built his own pillboxes here at the front, but they needed vision as well. So do keep your units that can shoot whilst moving on the move. Don't keep them still. Another thing right now is the rocket launchers. Of course you want them to be in range, but if you do move them, then keep them protected and move them as far back as quickly as possible to another defended location. So that's another tactic that Hammer is now using. He's sent in some trench mortars from down below, which are once again pulling these tanks to the south and not into the base. And this is exactly what he wants. The big Berthas are moving again, ever so slowly. The blue player succeeds in taking out the trench mortars. But now comes another round of heavy tanks and elephants. So they haven't actually succeeded anything so far. Meanwhile, here at the front, Alakrai has got some more workers and engineers that he's brought up there that are going to start building more factories and create a second front for him to worry about. Of course, this player should be checking on idle workers. By the way, the idle workers that you see are from me, they're not from Hammer. It's a bug with the replay, so excuse Hammer for that. This is not actually his 21 idle workers. I take that back. It's changed. I guess they are his idle workers. Anyways, you don't want to have idle workers. And you want to be moving in. The rocket launchers are in a really bad position. Hammer has got infantry grenade launchers that are just blowing them up, and he's got his elephant trench mortars that are moving about, taking out the tanks, and the tanks are sitting there complacent, whilst the big Berthas shoot the low armor elephants that are marching through. So this has already been 10 minutes that has gone by, and not a single attempt has been made to remove the anti-tank hedgehogs down the south. They've basically now become accepted as part of the game. They can't get through there. The only place for them to march through is here at the north. I mean, the amount of firepower in that from all the big Berthas, that's enough to one-shot a town hall, but instead it's been wasted on 2 trench mortar elephants. Anyways, even if the tanks were to come through, you can see that Alakrai has planned for it, but still he could be taking out economy, and he could be taking out airfields, he could be taking out factories. So here we switch to see how it's looking for on the enemy team. We see that Blake has not got a lot of wood, which would explain why he hasn't got that many pillboxes, but he should focus on that. This is a bug with the replay that we can still see inside the enemy land. He hasn't got any barracks up and running at the moment. All he's got is his big Berthas. This was a real mistake. He should have gotten submachine gunners to push through at the front there. Alakrai is now starting to create pillboxes, which they can also see. And the big Berthas should be in range of that just to shoot. The big Berthas are tanky. They're not going to be destroyed anytime soon. So they can go right in and... well, they would be able to, but instead another force comes right up. And once again, the big Berthas are having to focus these wheeled tanks that are also right next to the Allied tanks. In the crossfire, it's very easy to shoot your ally. So he should be choosing his targets. He should be going for the big berthas at the front. It's not looking good for them right now. They do not have enough troops to be pushing through. The Partesians are not close to as strong as submachine gunners. They should be training submachine gunners. So they should be getting infantry also to deal with the aircraft that start coming in. Evo now starts sending in some bombers. He's now made it to the front. He's also getting ready to train big Berthas. And we're still in exactly the same position that we were 15 minutes after the assault began. This is because the big Berthas aren't moving. So you should always be moving your troops at the front line. And you should be considering which units to target with which units of your own. If you have big Berthas, you're looking to target vehicles and buildings. And if you have infantry, depending on the type of infantry, of course, you're looking to target low armor targets, such as other infantry, such as elephants, such as aircraft. There's so much anti-air at this point on the Allied side that the French player is not going to get far trying to bomb the big Berthas. He could have been training some infantry to help complete what his team was lacking. That's what quite often you're trying to do as a team, as Elacry has done with the defenses. And Hammer is not going for the strong defense. Instead, he's using his wheeled tanks for the speed to go straight behind the enemy front line. Lord Rantalot is also filling in the gap with his aircraft because he's noticed that his allies are already holding the front. And here we have another round of tanks and big Berthas coming in, but unfortunately we see no Death Skies, which would be a great addition to deal with the infantry and the elephants as well. And all of the aircraft have been destroyed from the air raid we saw just before from the French player, which went straight over the base and right into the anti-airfields. Once again, Hammer is going right behind the enemy lines, causing all of the big Berthas to turn around and try to shoot them. Lord Rantalot has got his farm Goliaths taking out the heavy tanks that he sees, which once again is the better choice out of the two. With such high damage on one bomb, you want to prioritize the high armor targets, such as the heavy tanks. And once again, we see another bout of tanks coming on down, but they stop at the front and they don't try moving forward. Like, they see what India is doing with the wheeled tanks, but they don't copy it themselves with the light tanks. They're happy to rest at the front and try to win a shootout with a big Bertha. Another point to make, of course, is vision. They own the territory, which is why they can see as much as they can. But as that goes, they desperately need more of those vision towers at the front. That one is further back. It needs to be replaced with one that is closer, but as it is, it looks like they are losing the front once again. Even though they have more troops. And just in general, there were more players that were attacking in the beginning. There were 5 players that were attacking the 2 Eloquai and Hammer in the very beginning of this, but they haven't moved at all. At this point, France is now coming down with one of their heavy tanks. And the French heavy tanks are very strong, to be sure. But once again, it's more tanks. If he had sent down the APC Charmance or something like that, it would be a lot more useful to take down the elephants and the infantry that are here at the front. Hammer already has another vision tower set up, so the bombers are not that devastating to him right now. Ah, but they do get it. Good for him. Yeah, so once again, there's a whole lot of vehicles that are storming, charging, and then stopping right in front of the big guns of the Big Bertha. Also, the Big Berthas that are behind these tanks are not in range. They didn't move up in unison. And on this side, Eloquai is now pushing through. He's got workers in the base, which is, once again, this is why you have workers always in the lands at the front. You're trying to build towers, you're trying to do anything you can to give yourself an edge. So he's now trying to get himself machine gun towers and anti-aircraft pillboxes set up. Because he has more resources, he's going to keep training the Big Berthas whilst going straight for the town hall of the French player. Once again, the tanks are here and they've stopped at the front. Some of them are not even shooting. Now at this point, Hammer decides to take another path. Instead of going around the north, he's going to go around the south and try to get behind the lines that way. As you can see, there is a massive production line over here, and all that is defended by is anti-tank hedgehogs that have basically been abandoned by the enemy. If they had sent a cohort of tanks down through there and destroyed the anti-tank hedgehogs, they would have been straight there at the town hall in the middle of Hammer's economy, but unfortunately nothing of the sort happens. Instead, they continuously train more. Little freeze there. More troops to send to the front, and instead they send their troops to go around. You notice also Eloquai is not moving his Big Berthas, he's fine leaving them there. He doesn't want to leave his anti-air defense. And talking of anti-air defense, the air player France has just been taken down. And it's time to move on to the Russian player with the Big Berthas there. Things are not looking good at all for the enemy team at this point. They've been here for 22 minutes, stuck in this little battlefield. The amount of shells that you would find here is probably insane. It's over 9,000. Got more trench mortar elephants just walking about. And once again, they're not moving. They're very happy to sit where they are and launch their Big Bertha shells. And the funny part is that they're supposed to be stressed out because they're attacking Eloquai with the Wonder. The way that they're playing, you would think that they were defending. Now Evo has also got Bomber's up and running, so does Hammer. Lord Rantalot is also planning his next strike. And Hammer is now sending in a proper force of wheeled tanks down south. It looks like the other two that he sent there before were taken out. So now they have upgraded their towers to vision towers, which they needed a long time ago. It's probably too late now for them to win the game, even if they were able to break through here with the amount of defenses that have been set up with the pillboxes. But still, once again, we see down here to the south, there's just nothing to stop the advance of these wheeled tanks. There are the big Berthas that launch their big shells from afar, but otherwise there are no pillboxes or anti-tank hedgehogs. Just for those that don't know, you need the double layer of anti-tank hedgehogs to stop the wheeled tanks. They can get through just any one layer, which can be very frustrating if you don't know about it. So get 2 layers if you're fighting an India player. Now that the aircraft have been taken out from the French player, Elecry and Evo are more than happy to start moving up with their big Berthas. They have got bucket loads of resources. They have the factories set up behind so they can outproduce this German player and the Russian player. And once again, the rocket launchers there got caught trying to make it through the range of the big Berthas. They should have gone around the back or just opened fire from a safe distance. Why they were even moving, only God knows. Alright, and now we continue with trench mortar elephants that are just going to shoot anything they see, along with the wheeled tanks. Hammer is very happy to leave the front in the hands of Elecry and Evo, with their big Berthas holding the way. Typically, you would need some type of anti-infantry unit, but Hammer has got his elephants that are also just walking about, launching trench mortars there. Lord Rantalot has now taken out the vision once again. He's taking out workers there, and the factories are his next goal. By now, even just time-wise, it's very clear that Elecry has won the game with the Wonder. But it's gotten even worse than that now, with the tanks and the trench mortar elephants in the factory zone here. They are going to be taking out the entire economy. Once again, the big Berthas, they're shooting at infantry. They're wasting their big shells on these really small little submachine gunners whilst being fired on by Elecry's and Evo's big Berthas. Of course, there is a lot to micromanage at this point in the game, but still, this is a simple do and don't. You do focus the high armor units. Oh, and look at this. Elecry is now moving up with his big Bertha line, looking for the Russian player. I'm not sure if the tree line will stop him, but Elecry has engineers that can cut down trees. And Hammer has decided to go straight on through because there was no protection, and he's now inside Blake's main base. And with no defenses there and the slow big Berthas at the front, not able to come here in time, he is definitely going down. So not only was this a Wonder defense, where in the beginning it was a 2v5, they've actually turned the tables so hard that they're now taking out both of these players' main base. And now all we have is the base to the south, so Hammer turns his troops around. He's now determined to beat the clock. 2 minutes left to make it down there and take out the last town hall from this yellow Russian player. He of course calls upon Lord Rantalot for the air support to take out any units that he doesn't counter, and they're all on the way. So in general, you shouldn't be mining the trees that are at the front there. You don't want to accidentally mine the entire forest and then find that there's a gap in the anti-tank hedgehog. But it did last a while until they actually did move to that tree line. And they didn't move to the front, they started off at the back where it wasn't going to be a problem anyways. So possibly if the game had gone on for a lot longer it would have been, but with the Wonder victory it's not going to happen. And this is how the end looks. With the gate down, the wheel tanks come marching on through. Well, driving on through. There is a lot of anti-air defense in the base, so Lord Rantalot cannot do that much, but there's nothing to stop the tanks, who are now just going to roll up and then destroy the final town hall. Once again, just a matter of team play here. Elocry could not have done this with his big brothers. This is all up on Hammer with his speedy tanks and his elephant trench mortars, and he's done exactly what he needed to do. The entire fight he was trying to get behind their eco. I'm not even sure if this player was here at the end. He didn't move down his tanks to try to defend. He doesn't have any workers that are moving up to defend. And with 9 seconds before the Wonder victory, they legitimately win the entire game. And so, that is that. How to play in the industrial age. A couple of do's and don'ts. Definitely, if you have troops that can fire whilst moving, keep those units moving. Try to get into the economy from the opposing player. Get past the front line. Leave the heavy artillery and your infantry to hold the front. Have workers at the front and do build anti-tank hedgehogs to block off any other paths that could be used to get into your base. Get the pillboxes as Germany, as just in general in Germany. Get a large economy so that you can build lots of defenses. And yeah, that's that. I hope that you enjoy the video. Please like and subscribe if you do. Leave a comment letting me know what you think. And I'll see you in the next video.